Year 10 and 11, welcome to your revision for the poem Storm on the Island by Seamus Heaney in preparation for your AQA English Literature Poetry exam. The poem. We are prepared. We build our houses squat, sink walls in rock and roof them with good slate. The wizened earth has never troubled us with hay, so as you can see, there are no stacks or stooks that can be lost, nor are there trees which might prove company when it blows full blast. You know what I mean. Leaves and branches can raise a tragic chorus in a gale, so that you can listen to the thing you fear, forgetting that it pummels your house too. But there are no trees, no natural shelter. You might think the sea is company, exploding comfortably down on the cliffs. But no, when it begins, the flung spray hits the very windows, spits like a tame cat turned savage. We just sit tight while wind dives and strafes invisibly. Space is a salvo. We are bombarded by the empty air. Strange. It is a huge nothing that we fear. First of all, we must establish what the poem is about. The poem describes the experience of being in a cliff-top cottage on an island off the coast of Ireland during a storm. Seamus Heaney describes the background, the sea and the wind. The people in the cottage are extremely isolated and can do nothing against the powerful and violent weather. We must analyse the structural devices used by Seamus Heaney. First of all, the poem does not rhyme, therefore it uses free verse. The free verse symbolises the power and freedom of the weather, in particular the storm. We have one stanza. This single stanza represents the isolation of the island as it stands helpless in the face and in the destruction of the storm. The poet uses enjambment, which represents the repetitive cycle of the storm which the people face all too often. And finally, the poet uses caesura, which, remember, that is a pause in the middle of a poetic line. And this slows the pace of the poem, so the devastation of the storm is prolonged. Also, in terms of structure, and for our grade 8 and grade 9 students, our A star, the poem uses the Iambic Meter. Okay, and this not only represents natural speech, so it mirrors the patterns of English and makes the poem feel like a conversation as if someone's telling us about their experience, but actually this type of iambic meter, I think, mirrors the actions of the storm in terms of, we hear that the storm pummels, as you read the poem, we hear that the storm pummels at your house, and we hear the damage that it does, blows full blast, the sea spits, explodes. I think the iambic meter actually represents the bombardment of the storm, and it is a bombardment. We're told it's a bombardment, and the fact that it's persistent, isn't it? And it's attacking them and they can't escape. I think the iambic meter actually represents that, the movement of the storm, the sound of the storm. Okay, the power of the storm. Look at, if you've got this near enough the same amount of syllables on every line, it's very consistent, isn't it? Much like the fact that the storm penetrates their houses and ruins where they live. I mentioned the caesura earlier, sorry for my pronunciation. I always struggle with that word. And if you look, you can see it on the first line. So that pause, that caesura, forces the reader to pause in the comfort of this statement. We are prepared, and therefore we're thrown off guard when actually we hear what the storm has done because they're not prepared at all. Okay, the punctuation on the end of that line allows us to dwell on this feeling of safety and solidity, which obviously is going to be replaced. It's going to be replaced by the destruction. And as we carry on, we get enjambment. So if you look, we've got it all the way down here. If you just follow, look, and that is the blast. All right, the blast begins at the start of a line and then it goes all the way down those few lines, and it's almost a mirror image of the blast, of the gusts of wind, and the idea that the people cannot stop the storm once it begins. If we also look at the caesura here, at the word lost, the safe and comfortable tone of the opening is disrupted and the poem becomes more fearful. The caesura used to break the rhythm and is used throughout the rest of the poem. I did say earlier it prolongs the devastation of the storm. If we follow the poem down a bit further, we get another instance of caesura. The pause makes the reader consider the absence of safety and the absence of comfort. Enjambment is used again towards the end of the poem. If we look at the description of the sea and then the cat, all right, the enjambment suggests there's a surprise and a sudden change in the cat's behaviour, that it suddenly turns savage. And then we have the caesura after that, turned savage. It forces the reader to dwell on the savage nature of the weather. If we start with the first few lines of the poem. We are prepared, we build our houses squat, sink walls in rock and roof them with good slate. The wizened earth had never troubled us with hay, so as you can see there are no stacks or stucks that can be lost, nor are there trees. So first of all, we are prepared, we build our houses squat. So straight away, we are prepared actually creates a feeling of safety. Suggesting as well that they have had to prepare for a storm before. Okay, so they are prepared to face the storm, which suggests they're safe. Obviously, as the poem progresses, we realise they aren't. And the storm is too powerful. We are prepared, we build our houses squat. The personification of the houses squat. So squat represents the structure of the building. And the suggestion is that it will survive the storm. But squat is unpleasant, isn't it? Squat. Look at that line. We build our houses squat. Perhaps reflecting their lives they live due to the storm coming and obviously ruining everything. The inclusive pronoun we suggests a collectiveness. The family and the community of people are all together fighting the storm. Okay? The wizened earth had never troubled us. The island seems barren, and it's the idea that nothing grows there. Up to you why. It could be because obviously the weather that they face ruins nature, all the natural things such as the trees and stuff. But again, that is interpretation. The next few lines, which might prove company when it blows full blast, you know what I mean. Leaves and branches can raise a tragic chorus in a gale so that you can listen to the thing you fear, forgetting that it pummels your house too. So we have the theme of isolation as the trees are compared to company. The people feel as if certain aspects of nature are comforting. This emphasises the loneliness of the island. And this then links to the fact that we have one single stanza. As I said earlier in structure, the single stanza is the loneliness of the island as it tries to fight the storm. Okay. So as I say, the theme of isolation as the trees are compared to company. When it blows full blast, obviously we see the power of the storm. The power of the storm is explosive here, isn't it? When it blows a full blast. Blast also reminds us of a bomb. It's very destructive, and the plosive B sound there, blast, the B sound has a powerful impact, much like the storm. Okay. The leaves and branches can raise a tragic chorus in a gale. A tragic chorus is usually used in a Greek tragedy, and the chorus explains events. So it's the idea that the storm creates a tragic explanation of the devastating storm. Okay, so the storm here is creating an explanation of its own devastation. Okay, make sure you note that down right. I'll just say it again. The storm is creating an explanation of its own devastation. Okay, so that you can listen to the thing you fear. Okay, direct pronoun you, and the thing you fear is nature. It is the storm, isn't it? You know what I mean. The direct pronoun you again, it involves us, and then we reflect on our own experiences of a storm or of any powerful weather. And then on that line there, forget that it pummels your house too. Look at that violent verb of pummels. It's the idea that it ruins the house. So we get the direct impact of the storm and its power there. Okay. On to the next few lines. But there are no trees, no natural shelter. You might think that the sea is company, exploding comfortably down on the cliffs. But no, when it begins, the flung spray hits the very windows, spits like a tame cat turned savage. Once again, we have the theme of isolation. There are no trees. So a minute ago, we heard that the trees are like company, but now there are no trees. So again, it's this theme of isolation and this idea of loneliness. Perhaps the storm has ruined the trees. There's no place for safety, is there? There's no natural shelter. So all of a sudden, the people in the poem become exposed and we realise that actually the storm is very dangerous. You might think that the sea is company. Again, look at this idea of company, which links to what I've just said about loneliness and isolation. Exploding comfortably down on the cliffs. Oxymoron. Exploding comfortably. Remember, an oxymoron is a contrast in terms. So we have the contrasting ideas of fear and safety. Exploding comfortable. Okay, so it's the poet's or the speaker's mixture of emotions here. Exploding, the water is violent, isn't it? And it's a metaphor because the word exploding makes the sea sound dangerous and deadly, and that is a direct result of the storm, isn't it? And it is natural for waves to be violent during a storm, isn't it? You know, we've all seen images or we've all seen the sea crashing against the rocks or against the cliffside. And then we get the end, but no, when it begins, the flung spray hits the very windows, spits like a tame cat and turned savage. Look at that colon. Earlier I said about the caesura, you know, the pauses in the middle of the lines that slow the poem down. All right, so you've got your caesura here. The poem is slowed down, so the devastation of the storm is prolonged and it's almost drawn out. Now we have a simile. The flung spray hits the very windows, spits like a tame cat turned savage. So the familiar thing, which is the pet cat, yeah, it's a very familiar thing, isn't it, to have a pet cat, has become violent and has changed again as a direct result of the storm. We have imagery of the water spitting, and it's aggressive and it's vicious. The image of the cat turning savage. Okay, so we have this simile of the water spitting like a cat, and then we have an image of a cat that turns savage. The cat sounds evil because it is reacting to the weather. So the cat changes, much like the weather has, from tame to savage, from calm to dangerous. Okay. The next few lines, we just sit tight while wind dives and strafes invisibly. Space is a salvo, we are bombarded by the empty air. Strange, it is a huge nothing that we fear. So we just sit tight. The people are powerless during the storm and all they can do is wait for it to pass. Okay. We hear of the empty air, don't we? The empty air, it sounds weak and not a threat, but the power of nature has been shown throughout the poem. So I think empty air there is actually quite ironic, because whilst it sounds like empty air is not going to hurt anybody, it's not going to threaten anybody, what we've had all the way through is the power of nature. Bombarded as well. Bombarded shows that they can't escape if you're bombarded by something, and also bombarded. The storm sounds like a fighter plane attacking the island. They're bombarded. Okay. We have the personification of the wind. The wind dives and strafes invisibly. Strafes means to attack something with gunfire. The wind and the storm is a deadly weapon and can kill. All right. So before it was just destroying things, but now it's this idea that the storm and the wind and the weather is deadly. And don't forget the adverb invisibly there suggests that it's stealth, and it sounds worse because you can't see it and you can't detect it. The sibilance of all the S sounds throughout, look, space, strange, invisibly, strafes, mirrors the sound of the storm and the sound of the sea spitting, which was in the lines above. And then the last line seems ironic. It is a huge nothing that we fear. Listen to that. It is a huge nothing that we fear. It's ironic. Perhaps this suggests that the ultimate power of the storm is that it is an unknown quantity, which is supported in the idea that it is stealth and invisible. No one knows what the wind will do and what each storm brings. So all of a sudden, we question whether their fears are justified. All you have to do is look back through the poem to realise that, yes, their fears are justified because everything is getting ruined. The cat has turned savage. The sea is pummeling against the cliffs. The trees are gone. Yeah, okay, so we realise just how powerful nature is. And I suppose this links to the prelude by William Wordsworth, where again we have nature and the power of nature.